Hello, University of Wyoming alumni and friends. Thank you for joining our virtual town hall brought to you by UWAA Federal Credit Union. The UWAA is all about providing the pathways to share the legacy, pride, and spirit of UW worldwide so that alumni may have a rich experience in the UW community. Tonight, we will share about the UW Haub School of Environment and Natural Resources. And I am pleased to introduce the Dean, John Kaprowski, Dean of the Haub School since 2020. Hello, John, and welcome.
Thank you, Keener. The heavens have opened up here in Laramie for those of you who aren't here, and it's quite a thunderstorm out there, but really appreciate the opportunity to be here, Keener. Thank you, UWAA Federal Credit Union, and all of you who are here in attendance. It really is a great honor for me, having just been here 11 months, to speak to you. And what I'd like to do is hit some of the high points after introducing myself of some of the exciting things that are going on in the Haub School. So I'm going to go ahead and share my slides. It really is an incredible opportunity for me. I had spent about 20 years at the University of Arizona, and I was director of their School of Natural Resources. Life was good. And then this opportunity at the University of Wyoming's Haub School of Environment and Natural Resources emerged. And it really intrigued me. You know, at this stage of my career, it's really about making a difference for our students, for faculty and staff, for the state, the region, the globe. And I saw this opportunity as one that really could provide that kind of excitement and potential to have impact. And we're going to talk about the potential to have impact today several times as I work through what the Haub School does. Before my 20 years at the University of Arizona, I received my bachelor's in zoology at Ohio State University, then went on for my master's at Southern Illinois University, kept working west to the University of Kansas. And then after 20 years at the University of Arizona, as I mentioned, as a wildlife biologist, I made the move here to be Dean of the Haub School, and it really has been a wonderful move. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the reasons that I made the move and the exciting things that are going on. It's really that connection to the land that everyone in Wyoming shares, that people across the West and really around the world. But I don't think there's a state in the Union where there's a stronger bond, and images like this don't come up with how we are connected to the land for economic purposes, for aesthetic purposes, for enjoyment and recreation. And so images like this are the kinds of things that probably strike you about the state of Wyoming, and both the challenges and the opportunities that persist here, and really preserving those opportunities, managing our natural resources for the future. That opportunity to make an impact is what brought me here. When we think about how we make a difference, it really is about finding the place where you can have the greatest impact. The thing that's been most impressive to me about our students here is these challenges in the environment and natural resources really are complex. And our students are really excited by that kind of complexity. They run towards those complex problems, realizing that to have impact, you have to engage in some of these challenging conversations and work with people with diverse perspectives in order to really make a difference. And that's what brought me here, that opportunity to make a difference as well. So I think I'm a good match for the Haub School. I had an experience that involves a purple bike. And so often we'll give a talk where I mention this search for your purple bike. And I'll come back and explain that purple bike here in just a second. It really is an experience that I had in my career that really helped crystallize how we go about making a difference. I want to take you to one of the places that we've worked internationally. And this is the Ganges River, those light blue lines in northern India and southern Nepal. This is Sambhu Paudel, a World Wildlife Fund Fellow. And he's working on community-based conservation of Ganges River dolphins, a freshwater dolphin. Only a few species in the world are freshwater. This is one of the great holy rivers. It is a source of incredibly important to the economy of this region as well. And these dolphins are endangered and heavily protected and that creates potential conflict. And so what Sambu and I did was to work in this area to get communities involved, to think about how conservation could be compatible with energy through hydroelectric power and with local fishers that are a huge part of the economy there. And just zooming in a bit more, you can see the yellow line with the blue dots on it. That's the border between India and Nepal. Those blue dots are 4 huge hydroelectric dams that were installed, paid for by the Indian government and installed right there on the border. Some of that electricity is shared with Nepal as part of the agreement to put these large dams in. And these dams generate immense amounts of electricity. And when you're looking at developing nations like India and Nepal, that's quality of life, that's healthful existence. And so that energy is incredibly important moving forward with the development of those nations. But there are challenges that come with it. It changes the water levels. You're holding back that water to generate electricity. And for an animal like these river dolphins that are already endangered, are about 6 feet long and 2.5 feet high, you can see just in this little image here that there are not many places where this species is going to be able to persist during these periods. And I mentioned local fisheries are incredibly important as well. That bottom left photograph, you can see the dugout canoes that are typically used, and fishing is done primarily with nets. Those fishers also focus heavily in these small pools that remain during these periods where there's not a great deal of water release. And so you have multiple opportunities for conflict here. And just between the fishers and the dolphins, you can see the backs of many of these dolphins have scratches where they've been caught in the nets. The nets are generally tended constantly, but there's this conflict where this endangered species is influencing the ability of local people to use some of these natural resources and potentially influencing the flow of water and generation of electricity. And so we wanted to jump right in and kind of jumpstart these conversations and look for ways that things could be compatible. And so we engaged those local communities and began to involve them, one, in conservation efforts to collect data so that, one, they believed the data because they were part of the data collection, to use those data to develop schemes of work with the power companies, to develop schemes of water release that might still generate just about the same amount of electricity, but timing it at different seasons, different times of the day, those kinds of things. And to have the local community be able to look at adjusting the way that they fish based upon the way that the animals were using that habitat as well. And so by having the data to understand how we could maximize all of those things, the value of these as fisheries, the value of them for conservation, and the value for hydroelectric power generation was really critical. But it involved getting into these communities and having these discussions. By involving them in conservation, by bringing different people to the table, it engaged them in ways that have resulted in this actually being a tourist destination where people will pay to come stay in the village that you see here in the upper right and spend a couple of days there, have meals and homestays and get out on the water and see this rare species. And it's been wonderfully successful as a tourism destination as well. So it's added to the economy in yet another way. And while I was walking through that village, this family, which was one of our team members in the collection of data, asked me to come into their house. They wanted to show me something. These houses are made of buffalo dung and straw, and you saw those from the outside just a moment ago. Well, what they did was wave me in. They pulled a blanket off of this purple bike, and they said, "You bought this for us with the funds that we gained through helping your team, and this has transformed our lives." And you might think, God, how could this bike really transform their lives? Well, you can see some school books on the back of this. The nearest school to this rural, very small gold mining village that no longer was profitable was about 6 miles away. But the high quality schools that would enable a student to go on to high school and then to a university are about 20 some miles away. And so every day they would take this bike, their son would sit on the back, and the husband and wife would take turns taking them in that, doing that 20 plus mile journey one way each day, while the son was getting the highest education available in that region. They were getting skilled in cell phone repair, and cell phones are everywhere, including Nepal. And so through conservation, through these discussions, by involving the community in some of these difficult decisions, we were not only able to work with them on making their fishing compatible with regulations that were associated with this endangered species, but they were able to have economic gain and increased opportunity for their son. So that's where this purple bike comes in. And now when we think about how we approach difficult problems, I always tell my team members, what's the purple bike here? How do we connect with people in ways that are meaningful to them, that connect them with what we're trying to accomplish here? And finding that purple bike has really become quite a symbol of what we do in many of the projects that I've been involved in, but it really symbolizes what we see in the Haub School, taking on those challenges, looking for that purple bike, finding ways to keep people talking, keep people moving forward on those real challenges. And so coming back to the Haub School here in Laramie, when we look at what the purple bike is for units here on campus, here in Laramie at the University of Wyoming, excellent student enrollment, check. And I'll show you some data to support these things as we go. You want to have innovative degree programs. You want to be connected to President Seidel's 4 pillars that he's building the 21st Century Land Grant University on. You want to be connected to leading economic drivers, and the Haub School's been able to do that. Joe Evers, who's here, he's a board member both with the Alumni Association and the Haub School, has been instrumental in enabling us to work to get an Occidental Chair in Energy and Environmental Policy and endowed professorship. I'll talk a little bit about the idea of worth and connecting to Wyoming outdoor recreation, tourism, and hospitality is one of the things that we're really proud of. But making those connections and really helping the state, helping the people of the state, serving the state is a big part of that purple bike here at the university. And then impressive student support and scholarships. We have been very helped by many of your contributions over the years. And we just unveiled a brand new Carol and Ramon Tomei Scholars to Fellows program, a full 4-year ride with a signature Haub School international or field research experience each summer for 4 students, and we'll be adding 4 students each year. So we hope to have 16 students at any one time who are part of really a signature program. So those are the ways to connect with the things that are important at the University of Wyoming. And so good things are happening in the Haub School, and I want to just touch on a few of these. Enrollment still very strong. What you'll see here are numbers from back in 08, 09 to this last year. That last year is the pandemic year. Most universities, including ours, were off by a little bit more than 10%. We held pretty much constant. What did vary are the hatched lines you'll see at the very top of these bars. Those are the grad student numbers, and grad student numbers are back up this year. Undergraduate numbers have increased in the Haub School. So really tremendous growth. Some of you have been a huge part of that yourself. And the degrees that I think you're familiar with in many cases, some of you have received these yourselves, bachelor's degrees in environmental system science, a very science-focused standalone bachelor's degree. And then second degree that many students around campus take as their second degree, the Environment and Natural Resources Bachelor of Science. Just a few years ago, we added Outdoor Rec and Tourism Management Bachelors. That now has 100 undergraduate students in it in just a few years, helping fuel that growth that you saw. We've also tried to add value to students and broaden what they do through some minors that we have, one in sustainability, one in environment and natural resources, and one in outdoor leadership. And then we've been growing our graduate programs for advanced study, a joint JD MA, Environment and Natural Resources, and Environment and Natural Resources major and minor for graduate students, a collaborative practice minor, How do we bring people to the table and have those challenging discussions? And then you see the red line through that final graduate degree there. It is no longer a proposed standalone master's. It was just approved this year. We have our first class already started on campus, our first cohort of students, Environment, Natural Resources, and Society, that Master's of Science degree there. And all of these, again, focusing on ways to maintain that connection and do good things in the state, region, and around the globe. Another thing that you've probably read a bit about is that the university's been going through some reorganization, and we were part of that strategic visioning process that really helped us focus our efforts so that we made sure that we were aligned with the president's emerging vision of UW as a best-in-class 21st century land-grant university. The four pillars that President Seidel has are to be entrepreneurial, to be digital, to be interdisciplinary, and to be inclusive. And for those of you who have some tie to the Haub School, we hit all four of these. We really are well aligned. And as part of that visioning that we did and that strategic review, we wanted to make sure that the focus of the Haub School in the center there not only fit with the details of the UW strategic plan on the left, and you're not expected to read all this. I just want to show you that we're aligned. And those four pillars that I just mentioned on the right of President Seidel. So we really feel that we're in a good place with a program that's rapidly growing and has increased connection around the state. Another exciting addition when we talk about all that growth, we run out of space. And space on an academic campus is probably about the most valuable resource that you can get. We were able to get about 10,000 square feet, essentially a full 3-story building that's just next to the Buchanan Center for Performing Arts along the fraternity row. This is the Beta House, and it has room for about 20 or 30 graduate students as we continue to increase. For undergraduate clubs, they have some office space and storage space there. There's a 32-person lecture hall that will be the first one that the Haub School controls, and we have a donor who's been generous in enabling us to completely revamp this with the latest technology, and that's underway right now. And then conservation collaboratory space, a really flexible space that can handle about 80 people in just kind of standard seating for a talk. We're looking to outfit this with very flexible seating and tables to help with that collaborative process, to bring people in, have workshops, and literally bring people to the table there. So that's an exciting step forward. And then this Worth initiative that I've mentioned, you may have read about, collaboration between the Haub School, the College of Business, and the College of Ag and Natural Resources. Worth stands for Wyoming Outdoor Recreation, Tourism, and Hospitality. It's one of the 3 endeavors that the president has put forward for increased investment during a challenging time. And what we see here are the 3 areas that the Worth initiative will focus on. Professional development, really building on the bachelor's in ORTM, Outdoor Rec and Tourism Management, and a minor in hospitality. The College of Business is putting forth BS in hospitality and will be a secondary partner, like they're a secondary partner with our ORTM program. We want to have continuing education and certificates to continue to serve people in the industry and make these things available online to reach as many people as we can, to hobify is what we've been saying, those online courses, and bring our approach to the classroom online as well. The other 2 things that really weren't happening at the university as much as they should have for the number 2 economic driver in the state, dealing with outreach and extension. That's where our partnership with the College of Ag and Natural Resources comes in. Extension is out in the state already. People have for generations reached out to cooperative extension, and we want to capitalize on that. We think that having some extension agents who deal with this number 2 economic driver out there in the state can help us reach more people, can connect people to the university where they can get assistance in economic analyses and business and marketing plans and those kinds of things. where they can get the assistance of a senior student during an internship who can maybe work with that rancher who's looking at diversifying their portfolio, or working with that small town or large town that has some challenges that they're interested in exploring, how they can turn those challenges into opportunities. And then finally, looking at applied research. Some of this has been going on in the university already, but with the ORTM degree, we've continued to hire faculty and staff that focus on getting the data so that people can make data-informed decisions. How do people move across the state? How do they spend their money as they move across the state? How we invest in different areas to get them to stay an extra couple of nights in one part of the state that maybe they just typically would have driven through on the way to Yellowstone. And then thinking about the Jackson area, a whole different series of problems, sustainable development there, and how do we continue to have success in the tourism industry there and develop workforce and really have economic impact. So we're excited about this way of Haub connecting to the number 2 economic driver of this state as well. And so what we really like to say is let the Haub School help you find your purple bike. And really, I'm excited about the way that we go about taking on these problems, the way we train our undergraduates and graduate students to welcome that complexity and to bring people to the table, listen, learn, and make a difference. So, Keener, I'm happy to take any questions that this talk might have generated. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Well, John, thank you. Certainly have taken a well-established program, but advancing it to a new level and in line with Dr. Seidel's pillars. Yes, I would like to bring on, we have a few questions that were submitted for the other attendees tonight. I believe we're going to have a little time for you to submit questions in the chat, or you maybe can raise your hand virtually and we'll call on you, but we'll knock these 3 out first. So first, we are going to bring on Joe Evers, a UWAA and Haub School board member. And he has a follow-up question about the Worth initiative.
The Worth program is so fascinating and something that differentiates Haub while hitting on those 4 pillars, especially the interdisciplinary aspect. I was wondering if you could speak a little bit further to some of the unique additions and strengths that program brings to Wyoming as compared to some of the current programs in these areas of studies that you hit on.
Thanks, Joe. Really appreciate it. What it really does is we want to be the go-to place. Where does somebody in the state go to get all of those services? Where do they go to get additional training? Where do they go to get graduates who are coming out into the workforce, to get data that are necessary, to get assistance in exploring, some of the options that they might have. So first of all, I think it brands us as the place to go, and there's not that place right now. And the Haub School is going to be a big part of this, as one of the groups really leading the effort. The other thing that I think it does is it enables us to think bigger about what tourism, hospitality, outdoor recreation are. And, right now we've got this wonderfully successful program in the Haub School, that outdoor rec program, up to 100 students, as I mentioned. But we know that there's much more to tourism and tourism management, where we can bring in folks from the arts and the humanities. We can bring in people from geology and the geosciences and petroleum engineering even, bring those folks in to look at the history of what we're doing, some of the transitions that are going on. And I think that there are great opportunities for these to be wonderful educational ventures and to really reach across campus, which is what the Haub School is all about. That interdisciplinarity really starts at home, right? It has to start on campus. And so we view it as a way to kind of reach out, even though we're leading the effort, to really reach out and pull people into this Worth initiative that will help the state provide more opportunities for our students. Thanks.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And now I'd like to bring on a representative and an alumna from our sponsor, UWAA Federal Credit Union, great friend, Mindy Eiderdijk. Mindy?
Well, thank you, Keener, and thank you, John, for allowing UWAA to be a part of this event. We truly value and appreciate the partnership that we have with the UW Alumni Association. And I just want to take a minute to remind everybody joining us tonight that if you are a member of the Alumni Association, you also qualify for membership of UWAA Federal Credit Union. So we are very happy to be here and learn more about the Haub program. John, I know that the Haub program is truly an attractive pathway to many, many careers, but specifically, what efforts do you make to share the program with female students who might be considering a career in outdoor recreation, tourism, and hospitality?
Great question. It's really one of the things that attracted me here as well. And it's the fourth pillar of the president, that inclusivity. We are fortunate, a STEM field, so, science, technology, engineering, and math, a STEM field in the natural resources that actually is dominated numerically by women. 60 to 65% of our majors and majors in these areas around the country are women. And so there's an attraction. I think that, that's probably for many different reasons, but the breadth of the approach that we take, dealing with everything from wildlife to connections of the land with people. I think that as a result, our classes have just a wonderful diversity of thought, opinion, exposure of these opportunities to women and men in the classes. And so we're fortunate to kind of start, from a wonderful place, but our faculty and staff are diverse themselves and have been incredibly successful. And so we have not only great male mentors, but we have wonderful female mentors and advisors on our staff that help with placement and, really try to model the kinds of success that you're talking about and really kind of embody the opportunity that's available in this field. A great question. Thanks so much, Mindy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. And then our final question that we had planned is from Emily Smith. Emily, good to see you again tonight. It's been a long time since COVID hit and we haven't been able to get down and see you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you, Keener, and thanks so much for inviting me. John, I was most curious, what will the impact of the Worth Initiative specifically be on the Wyoming workforce development and economic growth of the recreation, tourism, and hospitality industries in Wyoming?
As we envision it, we think it will be instrumental in fueling the continued growth and to keeping students here. Right now, there are some programs that deal with outdoor recreation, tourism, hospitality outside the state. Our new program obviously been successful, but one of the things that we see is that, students that leave don't come back very often. And so kind of raising them here, to me, a program in Wyoming that deals with outdoor rec and hospitality, kind of, the quintessential Western hospitality. It's the kind of place. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. If you told me, hey, you could come study these things in Laramie and then have a career in Laramie, I'd be here in a minute. So I think we'll attract people from out of state who will then stay, but also, native sons and daughters of Wyoming that stay here, get their training. And then all of those students, as part of these internship programs, being placed and familiar with the industry here in the state, will be not only more likely to stay themselves, but the members of the industry themselves will get to know people and will be able to recruit the very best that come out of this. That workforce development is really a key part of this. And as we went around the state and talked to people in the industry, that's the first thing that came up, especially, with some of the challenges now. You've probably been to a restaurant that hasn't been opened as long, or is closed on an extra day each week. And those kinds of challenges are real, and that's all about workforce development. So not only are we going to be doing that here at the university, but something that I didn't mention yet is that this is really connected to the community colleges out there in the state as well, so that folks can start in other parts of the state and transition to their academic life whenever they're comfortable in taking that on. And we've just today finalized some articulation agreements where you take this class, at Central, and it will count for this very class, number whatever, 4,100 at the University of Wyoming in Laramie. And so we're trying to really work in that network of community colleges. And that's something that the university president, Seidel, and Governor Gordon have really made a top priority, is trying to integrate community colleges and the university. So we hope in all of those ways we continue to build that workforce and address that problem for the people of the state, but also provide wonderful careers for our students.
We have one question that kind of ties in with that.
First of all, I just want to thank you for the opportunity to engage with you. And I'm just full of enthusiasm right now with the following. First of all, Keener and board members and members of the executive committee, we've been talking about the concept of why. What's the purpose? And, your purple bike presentation resonated with me from my days at Shell Oil Company, and we're going to engage in that further with Keener. So that was stimulating. It's just food for thought. The question that I have for you, because I had a long-term career with Shell, and most of it was international. And I just think that the world needs a hell of a lot more Wyoming cowboys in it. And I think that not only will the state be blessed, but I think there's opportunities. And I'm wondering, because Keener and I have shared a few thoughts about how we might be able to leverage the strengths of the University of Wyoming facilities. For example, the 3D, all that's there, including, I think, a lot of what the environmental and natural resource through Haub for employment opportunities, because I think the transformation is shifting a lot towards more protectionism of the environment and so forth and so on with the major oil companies, not only domestically, but internationally. So I'm sitting there thinking, what an opportunity, how we might leverage you in conversations with some senior executives with certain oil companies, not only in the state, but that used to be in the state, that we still have a lot of UW alumni in those employment ranks, maybe not so much as heavier in the senior ranks as used to be, but I just think, wow, is there something here that you can help Wyoming in leveraging employment opportunities if we get you engaged with the likes of, Total, Marathon, Shell, Exxon, not just in Wyoming, but outside of Wyoming, because I just think Wyoming has a bootload to offer in the terms of quality employment opportunities of well-educated students. I'm excited about what I've heard from you.
That's really great, Gary. And again, it gets back to that purple bike. Much of the work that I do is international. And one of the things that I've kind of challenged the Haub School to do, and these times are a little bit difficult to travel right now, but that will change. And I think that, as you said, the world needs more cowboys. Hey, that sounds like a slogan. Keener, write that down, okay? But I think that exporting the incredible knowledge, some of that workforce that we have, training around the world, I think that we really underestimate ourselves. And, we should be punching well above our weight. We already do. And I don't think we realize that. And, you're thinking about the kinds of things that we're doing in energy. Think about the kinds of things we're doing in the environment, the wildlife migration initiative, those are problems around the world, just taking one that really requires a large scale approach and thinking big. I just think there's so much incredible talent and knowledge here that exporting that, connecting with the world. Yeah, usually you're thinking of it as an export, but those connections come back and you're bringing in business, you're bringing in workforce from elsewhere. I completely agree and very much be game to be involved in those kinds of discussions.
Well, thank you very much for your time, John. It's great to see you again. Go Pokes.
Go Pokes.
Okay, John, I've got three more I want to squeeze in here that are really good.
Right.
So we have Mike Howe on, who is the president of the Trona County Chamber of Commerce, and he wants to know what opportunities exist to partner with other chambers of commerce in Wyoming that would help you be successful. And then he also had a second question. Is there an opportunity to offer any of these degree programs at UW Casper?
Well, so we've already been talking with UW Casper. That is one of the places that we have some pretty close partnerships with. I was just on a call maybe a month ago where we were talking about some environmental science things that we might have in common. So some of those conversations are going on, and I work really well with the dean there in Casper as well. So I feel like there are opportunities that will be coming, Mike. And as far as the ability to bring chambers of commerce together, or, how they can support us, one of the things that as this Worth initiative goes forward, we're going to be looking for good partners around the state to get these interns out, and folks to let us know, here are some emerging problems or opportunities. And that is going to have to come from those partnerships and just good communication out in the state. We've been working a lot with Diane Schober over in Cheyenne, who's head of tourism in the state, and talking about some different ways that we can kind of connect with their network, of course, and continue to build. But I think the opportunities are nearly endless going forward. And, Wyoming's only becoming a more attractive place. And the more we partner and don't try to reinvent the wheel and, do this individually in each county or each city, I think that's how we're going to have success. And again, to me, that's what the Worth Center does. And that's what the Haub School does. We're involved in a bunch of different environmental issues and bringing people together and having these kinds of discussions. So expanding even beyond outdoor rec and tourism and hospitality. I think that's the way we're going to do it. We have to work together in a state with 560 people. If you can't make it work here, where are you going to make it work in our country?
Yeah, thank you, John. And then this one will tie into that about working across multiple industry lines. I believe this one is from my buddy Thomas Grant in Boise, Idaho. He asked, and will the Haub School inform policy development in Wyoming into areas of ENR? And will the Haub School participate in the development of renewable energy as the energy industry transitions from coal?
Yeah, great questions. Keener, I thought you told me there are going to be a bunch of true-false questions. Are those?
None.
Is that the second half here?
None.
Very happy. Thanks so much for the question. One of the degrees that I mentioned that you may have caught that I think really symbolizes our commitment to, the environment and natural resources writ large, bringing people together, from policy to pure science. It was that joint JD MA degree. The MA portion obviously takes place in ENR, but one of our faculty, Temple Stolinger, is a lawyer who participates in the College of Law, has a partial appointment there, and really helps run that program, recruit students. And so not only the students who are going through that program, but through several of our faculty that lecture in the College of Law, they're exposed to, some of these challenges as well. I think also when you look at a couple of that outdoor leadership program focuses heavily on leadership in outdoor rec and tourism, but that has a kind of a policy collaborative process approach to it as well. So we really do try to teach our students, graduate and undergraduate students, about how you facilitate discussions, how you come together at the table and move things forward. That it's not about winning, getting 100% of what you want and walking away from that table saying you won. A win may be only getting 20% of what you want, but you've moved things in the direction we need to move. And when you look at the energy industry and some of these alternative energy sources, we've already been engaged in some of those discussions from the policy side of things. And we have this new chair that I mentioned in energy and environment policy that we have identified a candidate for, and we're trying to negotiate a package that will bring that person here to really help lead. And then we're also have social scientists and life scientists and environmental scientists in our units that are collecting the data. How do communities feel about these things? How have community perspectives changed? What are people willing to tolerate to get to a better future, a state of being that they are comfortable with moving forward in the Wyoming of their future? And so I think in all those ways, we're helping make a difference. There's a lot of good work yet to be done, and we're ready to kind of saddle up and keep getting it done.
And then I think we have a final one, and it is from Liz Hagler, who is on our board as well. She sends along her appreciation. She works in the oil and gas industry, as well as her customers and suppliers across the globe. They're being pushed more and more to invest in and make strides in the sustainability space. Are there partnerships, training, resources, or collaboration opportunities available for companies looking for strategic support in these areas of sustainability?
Most definitely. And I think not only within the Haub School, I think there are a couple other places on campus, that can really help with that. But one of the things that President Seidel has emphasized is our need to partner more with industry. And I think this is a case where that kind of partnership could be really fruitful and help us provide opportunities for our students, help us shape the future, contribute to the future, not only here in Wyoming, but around the world, as we've talked about already a bit. Today, I was talking with a prospective donor who is very interested in setting up something like that in a different industry, but that would be related to the Haub School as well, where there'd be a number of opportunities for internships, for even some co-teaching of courses, maybe an office on campus where folks from the industry come spend a week or two, meet with students, develop relationships with faculty, staff, and students that they might employ. So I think there are a number of those opportunities. Again, the way that the Haub School approaches these things with kind of that broad perspective, realizing that, it's about finding that purple bike, and it's about trying to move things forward in ways that really have impact, mean that we have to work together. We can't just kind of do our own thing here at the university or in industry. These partnerships are going to be very important.
And John, we do have one more that's in the policy arena. Is the Haub School working with state government in policy areas to find solutions in addition to industry partners, individuals, and so on and so forth?
Yes, we are. Like to do even more. I think that we've always been involved, at least in recent history, in working with the state. Governor Gordon had one of his natural resource advisors on my search committee. So I was able to make those connections early, and we've continued to grow those connections in natural resources. We partner with the School of Energy Resources and work with some of the governor's advisors there. We've assisted our congressional delegations and some of their staffers in reviewing some of the very legislation that's coming out now on forest management and things in the environment writ large in a number of ways. So working, with our senators, working with our congresswoman, and that's been rewarding. There's always more that can be done. And that new policy chair that I mentioned already a couple of times, the Occidental chair, is really targeted at spearheading some of those efforts. One of the things I'd really like to do, Keener, that I didn't mention is the idea of a policy leadership opportunity. We're so close to Cheyenne, not getting our students over there and meeting some of at least the staffers, but, perhaps even meeting some of our state and federal leaders there, land management agency, heads, even regional folks down in Denver from many of the land management agencies have their regional offices there, and industry, as we've already talked about. I think we need to capitalize on that and have students start to even build those relationships, just see how networking and professional networks and relationship development take place. When you sit at a table and you look across and see that person as a person, the discussion's always just a little bit different. And so teaching folks, giving them opportunities to really be involved in that way and engage in that way, I think is a big part of the future. But yes, I think we do these things. We have those connections and we're working in collaborative ways, but we can always do more.
Well, John, this has been an exceptional evening, hearing from our alums and friends and answering a lot of good questions, providing some good information. If folks want to get more involved, how to connect with the Haub School, and as you pull that up, I would just say thanks to all of our participants. Thank you again, Mindy, as a sponsor, UWAA Federal Credit Union. I think this can get people excited about the remarkable work that's taking place for our students and for their careers in all of these industries: environment, natural resources, the law sector, careers in government, education, and industry. And we are just proud to be part of your program, John, and to support you in all that you do. We want to be a valued partner, and we think we are with all of our colleges, and in particularly now with the Haub School. And so the University of Wyoming Alumni Association has a lot of events planned this fall around athletic events and other activities. We're going to be across the country, multiple places. You can check out our website to learn how to stay connected through other events that we will be hosting. You just go to our website, uwyo.edu/alumni. And so again, thanks. And John, one final thought from you, and we'll close it out tonight.
Well, I really appreciate it, Keener. It's been a wonderful opportunity to connect. Arriving here 11 months ago, timing is not ideal and has never been one of my strengths. Pandemic, Wyoming winter pending, and budget challenges at the university. I said, yep, sign me up. But it really is great to be here and have the opportunity to make a difference. You can help the Haub School. Follow us on social media. If you go to the webpage here, you'll find all the links, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, to continue to follow us there. You can send me an email and we'll get you on our list for our annual updates and newsletters. You can keep sending great students our way, the students who are, understand that the way you make a difference is finding those purple bikes, and please send them to us there as well. Just always happy to hear from alumni and appreciate this opportunity, Keener. Keener, I also want to say thank you. In 11 months when, it would have been pretty easy to ignore the new guy, in the house on the side of campus. I really appreciate your reaching out. Just want to thank you for all that you've done.
Thank you all.